Good evening, everyone. It's Wednesday, October 11th. This is the Madeira Beach Board of Commissioners regular meeting. Thank you all for coming. Could we have the invocation and pledge of allegiance, please?
Our Heavenly Father, we come humbly before you in a time of a national tragedy. The deaths and terrible injuries suffered in Israel burden our hearts with sorrow, a sorrow shared throughout the world. We pray that you will comfort the families of those injured or killed and welcome those who have died into your heavenly kingdom. We are hopeful that those who have committed these heinous acts will be brought to justice and that your grace will be with those who have suffered and those present here today who share in their pain and loss. This we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Rostack,
Present.
Vice Mayor Kerr, Commissioner Taglerini,
Here.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Here.
Commissioner Brooks. Here.
Thank you. Next is approval of the agenda.
I have one revision to the minutes I'd like made. On the September 27th workshop, I had asked the question about a catastrophic event at Johns Pass under the neighborhood center, and that was answered by Director Rowan, but I also followed that up with a question that I would like added into the minutes, and it was currently, if we had a catastrophic event, we could not rebuild. Is that correct? And Director Rowan affirmed that with a yes. I would like that added.
Is that for the minutes or for this section? Approving the agenda.
Yeah, when we get to the approval of the minutes.
I'm sorry. I was in a hurry.
Okay.
We just, Mayor, just to add one item, to add the authorizing the city attorney to take legal action against the property that we discussed on the 27th, the Cardona property.
That's correct. I'm going to add it under letter K,
Thank you.
code issue.
Thank
We'll
you.
add it there. All right, thank you.
Then I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
All right, thank you. Next up are proclamations. The first one is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, October of 2023. And that reads as follows. If you'd like to come on up, that would be fine. Thank you. Proclamation, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas, domestic violence is a pattern of abusive behavior in a relationship that one partner uses to gain or maintain power and control over their intimate partner, and whereas the problems of domestic abuse are not confined to any one group of people but affect people across all economic statutes, races and ethnicities, sexual orientations, cultures, and societies, and whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humanity due to the systematic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic control and/or abuse, and whereas the impact of domestic violence is wide-ranging, directly affecting women, children, men, and society as a whole. And whereas Hope Villages of America has provided support, safety, advocacy to domestic violence survivors and their children throughout Pinellas County for over 50 years. Now, therefore, I, Jim Rostack, Mayor of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, do hereby proclaim October 23rd to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Madeira Beach. I urge residents to actively participate in the activities and programs that Hope Villages of America sponsored to work towards eliminating violence. In witness thereof, I set my hand and cause the official seal of the City of Madeira Beach, County of Pinellas, State of Florida, to be affixed this 11th day of October 2023.
Commissioner Brooks, yeah, there you go. Perfect. All right, I think one of those should work.
That ring is too short.
Next proclamation is Fire Prevention Week, October 8th through the 14th of 2023. And I see we have our firefighters and officers in the background here. Thank you kindly. Whereas the City of Madeira Beach, Florida is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our community, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire, and whereas home fires caused 2,285 civilian deaths in the United States in 2022, according to the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA. And fire departments in the United States responded to 356,500 home fires, and whereas smoke alarms sense smoke well before you can, alerting you to danger in the event of fire in which you may have as little as 2 minutes to escape safely. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half. And whereas the City of Madeira Beach residents should be sure everyone in the home understands the sounds of the smoke alarms and know how to respond. And whereas City of Madeira Beach residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire, and whereas the City of Madeira Beach residents will make sure their smoke and carbon monoxide alarms meet the needs of all their family members, including those with sensory or physical disabilities, and whereas the City of Madeira Beach first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires, home fire injuries through prevention and protection education, and whereas City of Madeira Beach residents that are responsive to public education measures are better able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes, and whereas the 2023 Fire Prevention Week theme, Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape, effectively serves to remind the City of Madeira Beach it is important to have a home fire escape plan. Therefore, I, James Jim Rostek, Mayor of the City of Madeira Beach, do hereby proclaim October 8th through the 14th of 2023 as Fire Prevention Week throughout this community, and urge all people of the City of Madeira Beach to plan and practice home fire escape plan for the Fire Prevention Week of 2023, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of the City of Madeira Beach Fire and Emergency Services. In witness thereof, I have set my hand and caused the official seal of the City of Madeira Beach, County of Pinellas, and the State of Florida to be affixed this 11th day of October 2023. us safe. I don't know, we appreciate you. Anybody want to get a picture of the fire department?
Just stand here in the middle.
Let's move right
Come
here.
up into the middle.
Let's get the commissioners in the background too then, please.
I'm gonna find a window this time. There you go.
That looks good. That's perfect. Okay.
Thank you. Good job, guys.
The last proclamation, Florida City Government Week, October 16th through the 22nd, 2023. Whereas city government is the government closest to most citizens and the one with the most direct daily impact upon its residents, and whereas municipal government provides services and programs that enhance the quality of life for residents, making their city home, and whereas city government is administered for and by its citizens and is dependent upon public commitment to and understanding of its many responsibilities, and whereas city government officials and employees share the responsibility to pass along the understanding of public services and their benefits, and whereas Florida City Government Week offers an important opportunity for elected officials and city staff to spread the word to all citizens of Florida that they can shape and influence this branch of government, and whereas the Florida League of Cities and its member cities have joined together to teach citizens about municipal government through a variety of activities. Now, therefore, I, James Jim Rostek, Mayor of the City of Madeira Beach, do recognize October 16th through the 22nd, 2023, as Florida City Government Week. And the City of Madeira Beach encourages all citizens to support the celebration and corresponding activities passed and adopted by the City of Madeira Beach this 11th day of October, 2023. Okay, next up is public comment for anything that is not on the agenda. Would anyone like to come up? We'd love to hear what you have to say.
Hello, I am Trish Springer. I am counselor for the City of Seminole, and I'm also this year's president of the Suncoast League of Cities, as well as a executive board member for Florida League of Cities. I am one of those counselors, and the city attorney will tell you, because his partner represents our city, I do watch everyone's meetings around this county, including the Board of County Commissioners, Forward Pinellas, PSTA, and I want to invite you, as well as my executive board. I brought my board here. We've got President-elect Kathleen Beckman, Councilwoman for the City of Clearwater. We've got Vice Mayor Tom Reed from town of South Pasadena. And we've got Mayor, you should know, David Will from one of the Reddingtons here, and his lovely bride, Patty Jo. We want to invite you to get involved with the Suncoast League of Cities, also with the Florida League of Cities. And what we do is we have our monthly meetings, usually the third Friday of the month, may switch around depending on what month and the holidays that are. And we also, when we don't have our meetings, we do have evening networking events. And what we do is we build relationships with our Florida legislators, our senators, and our representatives. Very important, especially if you've got issues in your city. You can meet and greet with other elected officials, not only in our county or in our league, but around the state. That can help you in your town, as well as any one of ours, that can help alleviate any problems that you may have. We also are involved on January is going to be our Florida Legislative Action Days, and what our league does is during that 1 week, we all go up and we meet and we make appointments with senators and legislators and go over issues that could be affected in our, not only in our state, but also in our hometown communities. We also have a travel program, which the league will send 2 representatives each week for 12 weeks. And it's a reimbursement. The league pays for that, where you can make your own appointments with any legislator that's in Tallahassee. So we want you to get involved. I've watched the board here change over quite a few times in the past few years. I welcome you, and our next meeting is October 30th. It's on a Monday evening. It differs from a Friday, but it's also our installation banquet. And we're also going to have our Florida League of Cities president, Greg Boss Ross, who is the mayor of Cooperstown, and he is going to be in attendance. It is going to be a general meeting, the swearing in, and then also we have Scott Dudley, who is with the Florida League of Cities advocacy program. That's also going to be a guest speaker as well. So come on out. I did send the invitation last night to your city clerk. I know it was meeting day today, so you probably didn't get a chance to get to it, but do spread that to them, and I will also follow up with the monthly newsletter with the Suncoast League of Cities. And does my board have anything that they want to add?
Just look forward to you all participating with us.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
And your information will provide the location
The
and time.
location, yes, it's
And
going
the
to be at the
time.
St. Petersburg College at 9200 113th Street. We partner with the Seminole Library, so that's, each month when we have our meetings, each community gets to showcase their town. Like we have that partnership, Clearwater has the Sound. We got 2 vice mayor and mayor beaches here. Treasure Island has got the hotels. They're having their standing ovations in November, and that's where we'll have our networking meeting. So come on out. Don't be shy, because you don't want me to come back here and beg you again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, please come up.
Thanks, Trish. So I'm Kathleen Beckman with Clearwater City Council and Vice President with Trish. I would add to what's really important about, what's really important about the Suncoast League of Cities is that, we're a region and we set priorities each year. What are our priorities that we're going to advocate for in Tallahassee? We also have former Representative Jennifer Webb, who guides us in research and talking points and approach to our legislators for advocating for positive legislation that protects home rule and helps us do our jobs. And there's power in numbers. So if you are participating, if you are coming to our meetings, if you are getting legislative briefings, if you're keeping up with the nuance of the language, wordsmithing bills that happen just like that, you need to be part of this organization and be aware of those changes so that you can call or contact your representatives and advocate for changes that'll benefit your city. We really need you. And it's really important because there's a lot that goes on in Tallahassee that limits us in a number of ways. So I would have you join our group. It's a good, eclectic, bipartisan group who's working for really nonpartisan issues that affect our cities here on the West Coast. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment for?
Gentlemen are just shy.
All right, well. Hi, Tom Reed, Vice Mayor, City of South Pasadena, and Second Vice President of the Suncoast League. All I would add to what Trish and Kathleen said is, same thing I tell my citizens when I'm sitting on the dais like you are. Without your input, the 5 of us have to make the best decisions we possibly can. So as the executive board of the Suncoast League, without more actionable input from more member cities, we have to do the best thing that we hope, but we really need input. So we just strongly encourage you to become involved. Thank you.
Thank you kindly. Is there any other public comment for items that are not on the agenda? Okay, we'll move forward then. All right, now we're up to the consent agenda and approval of minutes.
Okay, now that we're at the right agenda area, I would like to have a addition made to the meeting minutes for September 27th workshop. The follow-up question that I had made was, currently, if we had a catastrophic event, we could not rebuild, and Director Rowan had corroborated that with a yes. I'd like to have that added. It was part of the questioning I asked about building or not rebuilding Johns Pass, so I think having that statement in makes it a more complete statement for that portion of the meeting.
Sounds reasonable to me.
So with that addition, I would make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini,
Yes?
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
All right, next up, public hearings. First up is A, Resolution 2023-11, disposition of municipal property for affordable housing.
I'll go ahead and handle that, Mayor.
Thank you.
So let me go ahead and read Resolution 2023-11 by title only first. A resolution of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, adopting an inventory of city-owned fee simple property and determining no such public property is appropriate for use as affordable housing, and providing for an effective date. So that was a reading of Resolution 2023-11 by title only. The purpose of this resolution is a requirement by Florida Statute 166.0451. There have been some amendments to that statute. There is a requirement now as of October 1, 2023, and every 3 years thereafter for each city to prepare an inventory list of all the real property located within its jurisdiction that they hold as a fee simple title owner and which is appropriate for use as affordable housing. The statute also provides that the city must review the inventory list at a public hearing and revise it at the conclusion of the public hearing. Following the public hearing, the governing body of the municipality has to adopt the resolution that includes the inventory list. Attached to the resolution, you'll see the list that was prepared by city staff. It lists all fee simple owned property by the city by address or parcel identification number. It also shows whether it's vacant or improved land, and also a short legal description of each one of those properties. With this list, it's staff's belief that there is no property that is owned by the city by fee simple that falls in the category as being appropriate for use as affordable housing. So this resolution was prepared to reflect that. Out of the 24 parcels of land that have been identified in the city, none of them are appropriate for affordable housing. So with that, Mayor, I would ask that you open it up to the public for any public comment, and then a motion and a second on the adoption of the resolution would be appropriate.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this? Okay, public comment on this item is closed. Commissioners, do we have any comments?
No.
Do we have a motion?
I move we adopt Resolution 2023-11, disposition of municipal property for affordable housing.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Taglerini,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
All right, thank you very much. Next item up is letter B, Bravo. It's the ABP 2023-06 Barefoot Beach Club. Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Brian Ungst, 625 Court Street, McFarlane, Ferguson, and McMullen, on behalf of the applicant Barefoot Beach Resort South LLC. Mr. Mayor, I think you're aware, we made the city staff and the city attorney aware yesterday that we'd be requesting a continuance pursuant to Section 2-11 of the Madeira Beach Land Development Code, which states that a continuance may be, for a quasi-judicial proceeding, may be requested by any party at any time prior to the conclusion of the hearing, and that such request may be granted by the board in the interests of justice and fairness, and if granted, the hearing shall be continued by the board to a specific date and time, considering the reason for the continuance. The reasons for the continuance request are threefold. One that you may not be aware of is that my client's daughter became ill yesterday. She'll be fine, but it's an illness that we don't want to expose anybody to in the room. And so he's not physically able to be here tonight. Number two, with four commissioners present, four members of the board present, I anticipate this hearing might last a few hours, and we didn't think it was fair to you or the interested parties, including the opponents, to put you through a 2 or 3 hour hearing and have a potential deadlock. And then number three, in fairness to my client, pursuant to section 110-533 of your code related to reconsideration of alcohol beverage zoning, if there were a 2-2 deadlock, it would be a denial, and my client would not be able to reapply for a year. And so in interest of fairness, given the potential deadlock scenario, we would believe a continuance would be in order, given the interests of fairness and justice. Thank you.
So Mayor, I just want to bring you up to speed as to the two code sections that we're talking about today that the attorney has mentioned. First of all, the one relative to continuance is section 2-11. He's read it as it reads in the code. And I also want you to be made aware of section 2-8A of the same city code, and I'm going to read that provision to you. It says, the city attorney shall act as attorney for the board. Any motions or objections made by a party may be referred to the city attorney for an advisory ruling. The presiding officer, that's you, Mayor, shall act on behalf of the board and shall respond to motions and other matters with the assistance of the city attorney. So, Mr. Mayor, it is a decision that you would have to make on behalf of the city. And then if you grant the motion, and that's my recommendation, that you grant the motion. And the reason that I believe that you should grant the motion is that the code specifically requires that justice and fairness be given to the applicant. And there is a strong argument that if it's denied with a 2-2 board, that would not constitute justice or fairness. So my advisory ruling pursuant to the code is, and opinion is that the motion should be granted. Should you grant the motion, Mayor, then we need to set a date certain for the hearing to take place. My recommendation to you is that the hearing be set at the next BOC meeting, which occurs on November 8th. So if you were to grant it, you would either set that meeting or there would be you would grant it, and then there would be a motion by the board as to a date and time certain. Sir, can speak. So this, Mr. Edwards is an affected party. He has the opportunity to speak. I'm sorry.
The only thing I was
Hold
going
on
to
a
say.
second, Mr. Edwards. There's an attorney standing. I just want to make sure.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Just for the record, Mr. Attorney, I believe the comment should be related to the motion only and not the substance of the application.
It is.
Okay, thank you, sir.
It is. Since you're asking for continuance, we are going to be out of town as an affected party next month. I would ask that it be set 2 months in December.
Well, I think that's fair.
Absolutely, it's fair, Mayor. Mr. Edwards is an affected party. He has given the notice of intent. It's just as fair as it would be if it was a request by the applicant, so.
I would like to grant this attorney's request. It's reasonable. He has logical explanations for everything, and it just makes sense, and it's the right thing to do.
Okay, so then I would suggest that there would be a motion made to have it come back for the commission meeting that, I'm trying to find my calendar. The
December 13th.
So that day, we have, our meeting on that day is not a 6 PM, it's a 2 o'clock meeting, which, if it worked, it would probably be preferable in that if it ran long, right?
Well, I think isn't the workshop at 2 and then the meeting is at 4?
So on the
That is correct.
13th, that's not a
13th.
workshop.
13th, December
Regular meeting
13th.
The 13th is a regular meeting at 2 PM.
Workshop 4.
Workshop also on that day.
Okay.
So I was.
Oh, yes,
I
it's
was
the-
assuming it was
yes.
2 o'clock, excuse me, 2 o'clock workshop, 4 o'clock meeting. So, I mean, That will still work.
Would that work if we run long on that day?
Yes?
Okay. Then I would be fine with that also, if that works for everyone else.
Okay, do we have a motion to move this to December 13th then?
I'll make a motion to move the hearing to December 13th
At,
at 2 PM. If it's is our workshop at 2 and then our meeting is at 4? Or is our workshop after our meeting?
It was requested that the regular meeting be changed to 2.
Okay.
So when we brought it forward with the calendar, it was approved as the regular meeting at 2 and the workshop at 4, but you can switch it if you want.
I prefer it the way it is.
Yes, I would too. So I make a motion for 2 o'clock. We move the meeting to the 13th of December at 2 o'clock.
Do we have a second?
Second. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini,
Yes?
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
so Mayor, I just want to make sure everybody in the audience, you understand, you may not necessarily get another notice coming to you. This is your notice tonight that you're going to need to come back if you're an affected party, or if you're not an affected party and want to testify, that you need to be here at December 13th at 2 PM when the application is going to be heard.
I just have a question. So the reason that we're delaying it is because we don't.
Just go up to the mic, please.
Yeah, please come on.
Thank you.
So the reason that we're delaying it is because we don't think as 4 individuals you can come to an agreement.
That, and there's also an ill person that they,
But he's represented by legal.
correct,
So
correct.
it's really about, because 4 people can't agree, you think it's going to be split.
No, not necessarily. There needs to be testimony and evidence. The lawyer cannot give testimony. So his client needs to be here to testify on behalf of his application, and if he's not available, that is enough reason for
So
the
when we come
continuance.
back, then the client will be testifying, not the lawyer?
The lawyer will not be testifying,
So the client, okay.
and
just
I'm
trying
not going to
be
tell
clear.
him how his case is going to be presented, and we're not going to second-guess him on what he's doing.
That sounds perfect. We already
Okay.
went with him. He was
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so next up, ordinance 2023-07, whistleblower ordinance, first reading and public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll go ahead and read that ordinance by title only.
Thank
This
you.
is ordinance 2023-07, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, by creating new articles, 1, general provisions, and 2, whistleblower provisions of Chapter 50, Personnel of the Code of Ordinances to provide for general employment matters, including a process for investigating employee complaints against the city manager, and to establish an administrative procedure for employees and other persons to report instances of illegality, mismanagement, malfeasance, waste, or fraud on the part of city employees, agents, or contractors. Providing a procedure for investigating such allegations, providing for non-retaliation for persons who report such instances, providing a manner for alleging retaliation to seek redress, making related findings, and providing for severability, codification, and effective date. This is the first reading of this ordinance. You remember that we discussed it in length at the workshop meeting that was held on September 27, 2023.
I had a question.
On this, or,
No, the one before you didn't see me.
oh, I didn't see, I'm so sorry.
But I don't want to take away from this because this is extremely important given the
is.
history. What I was wanting to know is that there are several people here that just wanted to bring some information about our neighborhood without addressing the actual request by Barefoot, just to kind of give you the idea of the character of our neighborhood and the last residential neighborhood west of the boulevard on Gulf Lane, so that you would have that information to consider. Do we have to wait until it's actually heard, is what you're saying? Okay.
Absolutely, you would have 5 minutes to talk, to give us all of your
Okay. I
information.
just wanted to make sure, because we've had meetings with the residents, and we're pretty much in sync, but we wanted to make sure that you understood that we're still in the old Madeira Beach, sleepy fishing village. I said it here before, and of course, the city manager took it off the website immediately, if
Yeah.
not sooner, but.
I'm sorry I didn't see your hand
No,
raised.
that's fine.
I'm so
That's fine.
sorry.
Thank you, and I'm sorry. I'm Rose Loggett, 13231 Gulf Lane. I'm the first house south of Barefoot.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a motion on the whistleblower ordinance? Oh, is there any public comment on the whistleblower ordinance first? Okay, commissioners, that's okay, and thank you.
I don't have any questions. I felt like we discussed this at our workshop.
Yeah, I
Do we
feel
have a
comfortable.
motion then?
I move we pass ordinance 2023-19, nope, sorry, I'm on the wrong one.
17.
2023-07 whistleblower ordinance.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Taglerini,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
All right. Next up, ordinance 2023-19, definitions to be consistent with Forward Pinellas. Do you have any public comment on this?
Mayor, let me go ahead and read that ordinance by title only first.
Okay, thank you.
It's my understanding the presentation tonight is going to be done by city staff, and it's going to be a cumulative presentation with regard to the remainder of the ordinances that are going to be here and presented to you tonight. And so I'm going to go ahead and read the first one, and then I think the presentation is going to be provided to you. You can take action on that first one, and then thereafter, I don't believe that there's going to be any additional presentation. There would just be a reading of the ordinance, public hearing, and so on. So it just so that it's not repetitive, the same thing, or duplicative, I should say. So I'll go ahead and read ordinance 2023-19. This is an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending Section 82-2 definitions of Chapter 82, general provisions of the city's land development code to add definitions for commercial/business service use, commercial recreation use, institutional uses, mixed use, net land area, non-residential use, office use, personal service/office support use, public educational facility, recreation/open space uses, residential equivalent use, residential use, retail commercial use, storage/warehouse/distribution, light, transportation/utility uses, vacation rental use, and working waterfront. To revise the definition of multifamily under the definition of dwelling unit. To revise the definitions of floodway, floor area ratio, FAR, and impervious surface ratio, ISR, providing for conflict, codification, and severability, and providing for an effective date. That was a reading of ordinance 2023-19 by title only, and now staff can make that presentation, Mayor.
All right, thank you. This presentation will look very similar to the presentations we've had previously. So we'll be going over ordinance 2013, 19, 22, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So this will be in the Code of Ordinances as well as the comprehensive plan. So locally, we're going to be talking about the relationship between the county and then the plans that we have here locally. So with the county, with Fort Pinellas, we have the countywide plan, and they have a map. They have land use categories. We must be consistent with their categories, meaning they have standards. They have intensity and density standards. We cannot exceed that. If they have standards that say 40 units per acre, we can adopt standards that are 40 units per acre, 30 units per acre, 20 units per acre, but we cannot adopt anything that exceeds that 40 units per acre. So we have the countywide plan, that's where we have the standards, and then it comes down locally, we have the comprehensive plan, which there you have your future land use map and your future land use element. And then we also have the Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances, where we have our land development regulations, and that's where we have our zoning map too. That's usually what residents think of when You say, what can I do with our land? Well, you usually look at the zoning, and that's where you have your setbacks, your height, all of that. But we also have the comprehensive plan, and above that, the countywide plan. So they all work together. Every single parcel has 3 designations. So what that looks like, just the maps. On the left side, you have the countywide plan map. And then we locally have our future land use map. That's in our comprehensive plan. And then we have our zoning map. So all of them have to work together. They all have to be consistent throughout all 3 plans. The countywide plan, it's very overall, not into the nitty-gritty. It'll say your intensity, your density, and your uses. And then locally at the comprehensive plan, we can be more restrictive. You also have your uses, your intensity, your density. And then at the zoning level, that's where you have your accessory structures, your setback, your height. It also includes the intensity, density. So they all work together. So back in 2007 and 2008, the city adopted standards that mirrored this alternative temporary lodging use provision, but we incorrectly applied these standards to the entire commercial, general, retail, office, residential, and resort facilities medium. So everything up and down Gulf Boulevard. All of those standards were incorrectly applied and did not call out what you can use by right. And we'll go into that in the next few slides. So these ordinances really fixes that. We've worked closely with Ford Pinellas, making sure that these amendments are within their standards. They don't exceed what's allowed. So we are doing a lot of reduction in density, intensity. So these are our current standards, and you can see that everything that's in this darker gray, it's kind of highlighted in that darker gray, those exceed what the county has allowed for us. So in the countywide plan, we have the retail and services, and that correlates in our comprehensive plan to our commercial, general, residential, office, retail categories. So if we go to the map, you can see their retail services, that red, that's what the county has. And then locally, that is our residential office retail, that purple. And then it also encompasses the commercial general, that red. We also have it up here as well. So that's really the east side of Gulf Boulevard. So going back to this, our standards, as you can see, are higher. This is the floor area ratio. This is how we measure intensity. So the county standard, they say the max is 0.55 FAR. We cannot go over 0.55 FAR. Looking at our comprehensive plan, what's written in there, it exceeds that 0.55. So what we need to do is reduce that. And that's what these amendments do. And then also looking at our density over here, the county says the maximum temporary lodging units per acre, the maximum density is 40 units per acre. In our comprehensive plan, it says 60 units per acre and 45 units per acre. So those will also have to be reduced. And you can kind of see where, back in 2007 and 2008, where these numbers came from. They did adopt the alternative temporary lodging use standards, this alternative standards that you can use, but it wasn't clear on what you can do without using those alternative standards. To get those alternative standards, you have to have a development agreement. That development agreement has to include specifics. It's in your handout that was on the dais today in the countywide plan. So that's your concurrency management, your design standards, also hurricane evacuation plans and procedures. It's quite extensive if you look at that list. All of those are a minimum of what would have to be required in that development agreement to get to those alternative standards. So currently, our comprehensive plan really doesn't go into what you can build without using that development agreement. without those alternative temporary lodging use standards, and then how to use those standards. So that's what we're doing in all of these ordinances. And then going to the resort side, the west side of Gulf Boulevard, you can see it looks very similar, where our standards in the comprehensive plan exceed what we're allowed by right, meaning without that development agreement process. So you can see that in the intensity and the density. And why this is like 45 to 75, it depends on how much land you have. So now we're going to jump to comparing the countywide plan and then the zoning plan, zoning districts. So it looks very similar to our comp plan. Our comp plan standards are generally really close to your zoning. It'll have the same intensity and density. It's just grabbing those numbers and then putting them in the zoning. So you can see here in the C1, this is here down in Johns Pass. Our intensity standards is a 1.2. The maximum allowed by the county is 0.55. You can see that they were trying back in 2007, 08, where they got that number as the alternative temporary lodging use standard. The temporary temporary lodging density is also exceeds what's allowed, which is 40 by the county. We have 60 in our zoning. And you can see where they got that number 60. They were pulling it from the alternative temporary lodging. So you can see this throughout all of the districts. And then in C4, there's just a few places in the city that have C4. It's this kind of maroon. It's harder to see on the screen, but it's this maroon area. You see it here, over here, and up here by the marina. So not many places, but you can see that you have the residential office retail, that purple, and the commercial general is a land use. So they have two different land uses within that C4, and that is not reflected in our zoning. So we're also putting that in. The resort, the west side, you can see that we also exceed those standards. So what's the solution forward? We do not want to create any more non-conforming properties, and we must be compliant with the county. We had somebody in our legal office, Trask's legal office, do some research on, well, what do we do if we don't become compliant? And she was saying that the countywide rules gives the county the power to take appropriate civil action to enforce the consistency. So stated simply, the county can sue the city. We want to be consistent. These ordinances really clean up what was adopted in 2007 and 08, and to make sure that we are consistent with the county. So these will clarify and reduce the temporary lodging units per acre and floor area ratio by right, clarify the requirements for the alternative temporary lodging use standards. That's a development agreement that's required. Measure the intensity and density like in the countywide plan, and amend the definitions to be consistent with the countywide plan. So focusing on 2023-19, this is the definitions. It's pretty straightforward. We're adopting or amending to add and amend definitions to be exactly the same as a countywide plan. And so later on, we can use those definitions and our uses to be consistent with the plan, the countywide plan. So that's what 2023-19 does. And Tom, did you want me to stop there and then we can go to the next one? Or do you want me to finish the whole?
I really think we should stop there.
Okay.
Let's just address this ordinance, then we can address the other ones. Yeah.
So that's all that I had for the definitions, 2023-19, and then we'll go on to the others.
So we'd open it up to the public at this point, Mayor. public comment.
Do we have any public comment on this? Please come up. We'd love to hear from you. Tom?
Tom Edwards, District 1. Jenny, if we are over and we have to lower our FAR and our density, why do we want planned developments that are going to increase it above the density intensity that the county has for the other places?
Mayor, this is not a question and answer period. This is to make statements and you
Okay.
listen
Right,
and
well, that
so
would
forth.
that would be my question, and then when you all have your discussion, you can certainly
Okay.
bring that up. I don't understand why we're increasing the density and the intensity when we're trying to lower it to meet the county standards. And I understand because it's an alternate temporary lodging. But if we're worried about evacuation and hurricanes and that type of thing, why are we increasing the density in that area?
Tom, would you do us a favor and send each of the commissioners an email with this question?
Okay, I didn't know if it was discussion tonight or not.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, thank you.
So could I just, sorry, there are more?
Is there any other public comment? Please come up.
Hi, my name is Ron Loggett. I'm at 13231 Gulf Lane. But I do have a question regarding that color-coded map you had there. I don't know whether I can ask it or not, or whether I have to send you guys a...
Just make your statement as to what
Okay.
your thoughts are.
The last frame shows properties west of Gulf Boulevard, if I'm reading it correctly, as R3. I thought they were C3.
Okay, well, once all the public comment is done, the mayor can allow city staff to answer all the questions.
Okay.
Is that your only thought?
That's my question, yes.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
All right, there's no zoning changes to this map. Everything that's west of Gulf Boulevard is at R3 in the zoning map. So in the there's 3 categories for every single parcel. You have your countywide plan map, and then you have your comprehensive plan, and then the zoning. None of those are changing. We're doing text amendments in the code and in the comprehensive plan. So in the countywide plan map, it's resort on the west side of Gulf Boulevard. In the comprehensive plan, most of the parcels are the resort facilities medium. So you can see in the middle, that's that teal color. And then in the zoning map, that's the R3, the brown color. None of those are changing. Those are staying the same with these. Everything that's going tonight does not change the zoning, does not change the land use. It's a text amendment. And then with PDs, that's really, it's a zoning, it's not a land use change. So they would still have to adhere to the intensities and densities in the comprehensive plan.
Any other public comment? Okay. Commissioners?
Just, I want to say I reached out to Linda Fisher on all of these. She gave me some good clarification, which lines up pretty much exactly with what Jenny says. That specifically, 2319, it's about wordage consistency, and it reduces the 1.2 floor area ratio to 0.55 floor area ratio. And that's, if I'm going to say this right, by right, that's just what you can build by the zone. You would have to go through a lot more trouble or work if you could even get, but it would still have to be within the zone to have it built. So this 2319, and then I went ahead and asked the other question, well, what if we don't do it? And she says that countywide planning authority has the authority to enforce the countywide rules, but doesn't provide for a specific enforcement mechanism. In practice, adoption of consistent plans and regulations is responsible of local government. Development that is built to higher densities and intensities that the county-wide rules allow is in a legal gray area which would complicate rebuilding after a disaster. So if we don't align it, we will, and what Jenny added also was that I guess we could be sued. So there's both of those things. I've heard some concerns that there's no law that says we have to do it. There do seem to be some issues if we don't align with the countywide policies. Just toss that in what I heard from.
The one clarification I would like to have, and this goes with the minutes that were added by Commissioner Brooks in regards to building Johns Pass. So right now, what we have today is we have a higher level of density, intensity, and we have to tighten that down, correct?
Yes, that's
Okay, so
correct.
then, if we can't rebuild Johns Pass with what we have now, and we're like tightening the screws and making it even harder, how can we rebuild Johns Pass if we're tightening up the restrictions?
Even right now, you could not build John's Pass. I think it'd be best when we get to it's C1, because right now we're technically discussing and then voting on the definitions. But I think once we get to C1 and actually read the language, we can go over that. I think that'd
Okay,
be-
thank you.
Yeah.
By the way, that's ordinance 2023-27. It's item G in your agenda. Okay.
I don't have any questions on this.
Okay.
Just need a motion to approve and second and vote on that.
Do we have a motion to approve?
I move we pass ordinance 2023-19 definitions to be consistent with Ford Pinellas.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Taglerini?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan?
Yes.
Mayor Rostack?
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
All right, thank you. Next up is ordinance 2023-22, future land use element to be consistent with Forward Pinellas.
Mayor, I'll read that ordinance by title only. This is ordinance 2023-22, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending policy 4.1.1.1 to incorporate the provisions of policies 4.1.1.2 and 4.1.1.3 of the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the City of Madeira Beach to reformat each land use category into a matrix, include the countywide land use categories, and include allowed uses consistent with the countywide plan. Renumbering policy 4.1.1.4 to policy 4.1.1.2, providing for conflict, severability, and codification, and providing for an effective date hereof. That was a reading of ordinance 2023-22 by title only.
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment on this? Please come up. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, no public comment. Commissioners?
Jenny, did you have anything that you wanted to address on this one?
We can just go over it quickly and then see what questions we have. So the biggest thing is we're reformatting the future land use into a matrix. So you'll see in your packets, in the ordinance, there's a lot of strike through. So we're striking through everything. Forward Pinellas recommended us to reformat this into a matrix. It's easier to read. It's easier for residents to read and property owners to read as well. The other cities in Pinellas County are reformatting into a matrix. This has been going on for years, so they asked us to reformat this in a matrix. So it looks very different, but the numbers and uses really are just carried over. And we're providing the by right density, so what you can build a temporary lodging use without going through that development agreement standard, the alternative temporary lodging use standards, which you would have to use that development agreement. So we're defining that, and then bringing it back to the county, saying, well, it has to adhere to the county's alternative temporary lodging use standards requirements, and that's the development agreement. And in what I handed everybody at the dais is the countywide plan where it talks about the development agreement with the alternative temporary lodging use standards. In there, it outlines you have to meet the concurrency management, hurricane evacuation plans and procedures, design considerations, mobility management, and then operating characteristics and restrictions. So in the comprehensive plan, we talk about the alternative temporary lodging use standards, how to get there. This is also, you'll see it in the zoning. It's carried through with the zoning as well. And here are the standards, the proposed standards. So everything in yellow that's highlighted. So it's reducing that FAR, the floor area ratio, to that 0.55 that we're required to do with the county. And then putting in the alternative temporary lodging use standards to the 1.2. And currently in our code, it's a 1.2, so it's really just carrying over that standard and allowing a way to get back to what is currently there. And then that's also within our rights, within the countywide plan. So you see that in the commercial general and the residential office retail. Now with this alternative temporary lodging use standards, it's a little different with how we're required to calculate the floor area ratio. Typically, you do not count a garage, a structure parking. When you use this alternative temporary lodging use standards, the county requires us to check and make sure that we are counting the structured garage. So that's why this, in the residential office retail, it was a 1, and so we are increasing that to a 1.2, and that's why. And it also makes these standards the same. It makes it similar with the commercial general and the residential office retail. If you look at the map, it's everything east of Gulf Boulevard. So we have the retail services with the county, and then the residential office retail and the commercial general. And then we're reducing the by right. Meaning if somebody wanted to come in, build a hotel, what could they build without coming to the board? That's the density. So it's reducing all of those by rights. So you see that in the retail and service, in the commercial general, residential office retail, and the resort facilities medium. We were required to reduce all of those by right standards. And then we're also putting in the alternative temporary lodging units per acre, and that's that development agreement process. So you see that throughout all 3 of these categories, and these were the 3 categories that we were inconsistent with the county. So it looks very different, like I said before. On the left, this is what it looks like currently, and then this is the matrix format. And we're also putting in the permitted uses. A lot of our land uses did not state the permitted uses, and we need to put in the permitted uses in the comprehensive plan. We also have it in the zoning. So all these permitted uses, those definitions are the definitions that we just looked at in 2023-19. Those are consistent with a countywide plan. And that's all I have for the comprehensive plan. It's a lot, but it's pretty straightforward of we need to reduce the by right. We need to adopt the alternative temporary law. It was adopted in 2007 and 8. So it's just putting in that provision of how to use it, what those standards are, and then putting everything in a matrix format.
Jenny, Linda Fisher writes 2023-22. That's what we're looking at now, right? proposes to increase city's alternative temporary lodging densities, but they will remain within the maximum standards allowed by the countywide rules. Is that accurate?
Yes, so I can show you. So this is the countywide plan categories for, this is the east side of Gulf Boulevard, this is the west side of Gulf Boulevard. Here's their maximum standards.
Okay.
So as you can see, we are well within those.
She says these amendments are allowed but not required by the countywide rules, so that's entirely a local policy decision, but we're within their,
Yes, yes. So take the resort category at the county. Their alternative temporary lodging units per acre, their density, and they have a sliding scale based on how much land area you have. It's 70 units per acre up to 125.
okay,
Locally, we are saying 60,
got it.
and 60 in the east side.
Well, we're
too.
well within the county
Yes,
boundaries. Got it.
yes.
The only question I had is on the matrix where it has activity center.
Yes, let me get to that.
It's on page 123, I think. Yeah, 123. Are we going to use that definition still? When they came back, when Forward Pinellas came back and said that we had to call it a neighborhood, does that work? I know that it's.
That works.
It works, perfect.
I think neighborhood is a subset of activity center, is that correct?
Yes, in the county's plan.
Got it, thanks.
Commissioner McGeehan, you have any comments?
So we just need a motion to approve, a second, and consideration?
Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-22.
Do we have a second?
A second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini,
Yes?
Mayor Rostack.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
Next up, ordinance 2023-26, R3 Medium Density Multifamily Residential Zoning District to be consistent with the countywide plan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll go ahead and read this ordinance by title only. This is ordinance 2023-26, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending Division 4, R3 Medium Density Multifamily Residential of Article 5 Districts of Chapter 110 Zoning of the city's Land Development Code to amend the purpose and intent of the R3 district, add vacation rental, temporary lodging, and institutional as permitted uses, add retail, commercial, and personal service uses as an accessory use, revise the special exception uses for standalone retail, commercial, and personal service uses, add retail, commercial to building site requirements, a maximum density for residential dwelling, vacation rental units, and temporary lodging units in Section 110-230, add setback requirements for temporary lodging and retail commercial, amend maximum lot coverage provisions, amend buffering requirements for temporary lodging, add special requirements for temporary lodging, alternative temporary lodging use standards in standalone restaurants and retail commercial uses, providing for conflict, severability, and codification, and providing for an effective date. That was a reading of ordinance 2023-26 by title only. Jenny, do you have anything?
So all of the zoning district amendments will look very similar. We are updating the terms, the definitions to be consistent with the countywide plans, all those definitions in 2023-19, inputting those in, and then providing that by right density, what a property owner could build without going to the board, without getting that development agreement process. So it's a reduction in those. And then detailing the alternative temporary lodging use standards, the requirements for the countywide plan. So that's a development agreement with all of those requirements in the development agreement. So that's what you have in all the zoning. They'll look very similar. There's a lot of strike through and underline. Most of it is the definitions, and then putting in that development agreement, the alternative temporary lodging use standards, and how to use it.
Is there any public comment on this? Commissioners?
I just want to say that this is where some people get hung up, I think. Ms. Fisher says allows, this 2023 to 26 allows for higher density and/or intensity for temporary lodging uses on parcels that are less than 3 acres. So think about, you have to think about, and what I had to think about, where is a 3-acre plot? And Deer Beach. Other than that, it lowers the overall maximum temporary lodging density from 75 to 60 units per acre. This is more, even an acre. So anyway, that sounds accurate? Yeah?
Yes, to see this like in the code, you can just go to page 140 of your packet, where we did have the sliding scale. It was less than 1 acre, 1 to 3 acres, greater than 3 acres. Let me see if we can pull that up. Just so everybody can see that. So it's removing that and just having a straight standard, 60 units per acre. That's what you have on the east side. Don't want to go up to 75 or have people grabbing land and trying to get a higher density. I don't think that that's what Madeira Beach wants. So just having a straight number, that's what we were going towards.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion then?
I move we pass ordinance 2023-26.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Taglerini?
Yes?
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn?
Yes.
Mayor Rostack?
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
All right, thank you. Next up is ordinance 2023-27, C1 Tourist Commercial Zoning District to be consistent with the countywide plan.
Mayor, Commissioners, this is ordinance 2023-27, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending Division 5, C1 Tourist Commercial of Article 5 Districts of Chapter 110 zoning of the city's Land Development Code to amend the purpose and intent of the C1 district, revise permitted uses to include residential, vacation rental, personal service, office support, retail, commercial, business service, commercial, and temporary lodging. Delete commercial, recreation, and entertainment facilities as a special exception use. Add institutional and commercial recreation as a special exception use. Add retail, commercial, and residential dwelling units to building site requirements and maximum density for vacation rental units and temporary lodging units in section 110-260. Revise reference for permitted uses of side yards and setback requirements. Amend maximum lot coverage provisions. Add special requirements for alternative temporary lodging use standards and institutional uses other than public educational facilities, providing for conflict, severability, and codifications, and providing for an effective date. That was reading ordinance 2023-27 by title only.
All right, thank you. Is there any public comment on this? Okay, Commissioners.
This looks very similar to what you just looked at. I would like to point out the question about the FAR reducing it to from 1.2 to 0.55 in the C1 district, Johns Pass. So if we look at the actual code, the 1.2 is the highest, but it's only for temporary lodging uses. So currently, the commercial, non-residential commercial uses, The floor area ratio is at 0.55. So it's currently that 0.55, but it's reducing everything to that 0.55, and that's what we're required by the county. And I think this slide is helpful, just going through all the zoning. You can really see just in a table, just easily where the changes are being made, what's the proposed standards. And everything else is really definitions and defining that alternative temporary lodging use standards, how to use it, what's your by right standards, so.
Questions?
No questions, just, I feel like I'm just repeating everything Jenny's saying. That's confirmation from what I got from the county. This lowers the maximum density for temporary lodging units when alternative standards aren't met from 60 to 40, which is basically what she said.
I have a question then. So then, with John's Pass, with its current zoning regulations, and we're getting things tighter, correct? How are we going to be able to rebuild?
It's currently 0.55 for commercial. It's 1.2 for temporary lodging. So back in 2007 and 8, they adopted the alternative temporary lodging use standards. That's where they got the 1.2 for temporary lodging for hotels. But it didn't say you can only do that with an approved development agreement. So it's basically just putting in that language of, yes, you can get to that 1.2, but you have to have an approved development agreement. Those standards at 1.2, the county says you cannot go over a 0.55, so it's really bringing down the standards of by right, and then you still can get back up to that 1.2, but it would have to go to the planning commission, it would have to go to the board, you would have to meet all of those requirements in the development agreement, and you would want to see those in a, say in a larger hotel, you would want to make sure that they meet the concurrency management, the mobility, evacuation rules and procedures.
Okay, thank you.
So did she answer your question, Mayor? I don't think so.
No,
So can I rephrase it
no.
a different way? Do
Please,
you mind? 'Cause we
please,
have
please.
You and I have the same question. So his question is, if the way Johns Pass sits right now, a hurricane wiped it out, we can't rebuild it. But if we change this, we're reducing the number, how can we rebuild it? My thought is, are we able to, because it becomes then a neighborhood center? That is the question people don't get. And I know exactly where he's coming from in the question. It's if so we got lots of information from people saying that we were increasing the intensity and density in Madeira Beach, and that was a terrible, bad thing, which we've all seen the numbers that is not really what is going on now. So if you could put it in layman terms for the public to understand how, I understand we have to make these changes because if we don't, the county's going to. That's the way it is. But so that it could put the public at rest to understand how this is going to affect the rebuilding of Johns Pass in the event of a storm.
So we are not touching the commercial floor area ratio? Does that answer? No.
So
I'm just trying.
basically, we can't fix the commercial issue unless if that Johns Pass Village Activity Center plan land use change passes.
Yes.
This is basically just doing cleanup in our zoning code that we're required to do. That we can't violate the county-wide rules, so we have to just fix it because the land use change, if it's not passed, it still has to be voted on by you guys again, then it has to go to the county, and then it has to come back to you guys again. So, but no matter what, we have to clean this up. So it's basically just kind of housekeeping and making sure our zoning's compatible with the existing land use category it has, which is retail and services in the countywide plan and commercial general in our comprehensive plan.
So it's cleaning up so that we can make the next step to save Johns Pass, essentially. Because this isn't making a change
No,
for
so-
rebuilding. What we're voting on currently is what we're currently voting on
Yes.
has nothing to do with rebuilding Johns Pass, per se.
No, so in John's Pass, so all of this stems from, we became aware that we were inconsistent with the county.
Right.
We looked up and down Gulf Boulevard and John's Pass. That's where we have the inconsistent standards. So in John's Pass, we have a concentration of legally non-conforming properties. So that's why in John's Pass, we're taking the approach of a land use change, where up and down Gulf Boulevard, we can make text changes to be in line with the county, but then also not creating more non-conforming properties.
But we're not voting on a land use change now.
No.
We are only voting on,
The text
correct.
amendments.
That's what I wanted to,
Okay.
thank you.
I think because thought I understood it, but then I questioned myself. I feel like Johns Pass is still in danger even after we pass these.
Yes.
Until we look at the next step, which we've had conferences about.
That is correct.
And there's nothing that we can do without that land use change.
Got
We
it.
can't
Yeah.
make those standards higher. Right now, they're low. The commercial FAR is 0.55. That's what's in our zoning right now. We can't increase that. The county, their standards are 0.55. Our standards for commercial currently is 0.55. So we're not touching that, and that's why we're going for that land use change in John's Pass.
I just thought it was important to clarify it.
Commissioners, any other questions?
Public comment.
Public comment? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-27.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini,
Yes?
Mayor Rostack.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
Next item, ordinance 2023-28, C2 Johns Pass Marine Commercial Zoning District to be consistent with the countywide plan.
Mayor, Commissioners, this is ordinance 2023-28, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending Division 6, C2, Johns Pass Marine Commercial of Article 5 Districts of Chapter 110 Zoning of the city's Land Development Code to amend the purpose and intent of the C2 district, delete retail and add commercial, commercial recreation, and retail commercial as permitted uses. Delete the C2 Johns Pass Marine Commercial District special requirements, providing for conflict, severability, and codification, and providing for an effective date. That was a reading of ordinance 2023-28 by title only.
All right, thank you. Is there any public comment on this? Okay. Jenny, you have anything for us?
Not much in here. In C2, it's not an allowed use for temporary lodging, so most of this is just the definitions. We don't have any density. This is the boardwalk, the C2.
Commissioners, you have any comments or questions? Do we have a motion?
I move we pass ordinance 2023-28.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you kindly. City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Taglerini,
Yes?
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack.
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
All right, thank you. Ordinance 2023-29, C3, Retail Commercial Zoning District to be consistent with the countywide plan.
Mayor, Commissioners, this is ordinance 2023-29, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending Division 7, C3 Retail Commercial of Article 5 Districts of Chapter 110 zoning of the city's Land Development Code to amend the purpose and intent of the C3 district, delete business office, financial service uses, and tourist dwelling units as permitted uses. Add retail commercial, office support, business service, multifamily residential, vacation rental, and temporary lodging as permitted uses. Delete entertainment facilities, business and financial services, and medical marijuana dispensaries as special exception uses. Add institutional as religious use, retail, commercial, and business services as special exception uses. Delete tourist dwelling and multifamily units from building site requirements. Add vacation rental and temporary lodging units, multifamily and vacation rental unit lot size requirements, and revise lot width requirements for residential, vacation rental units, and temporary lodging units within building site requirements in Section 110-320. Revise the density requirements for residential or vacation rental dwelling units. Add reference to alternative temporary lodging use standards in CG and ROR future land use categories. Amend maximum lot coverage to allow for non-residential/commercial use only. Delete tourist dwellings and add temporary lodging to buffering requirements. Add requirements for vacation rentals and temporary lodging units and special requirements. Providing for conflict, severability, and codification, and providing for an effective date. That was the first reading of ordinance 2023-29 by title only.
All right, thank you. Is there any public comment on this? Okay, thank you. Commissioners, or Jan, do you have anything else for us on that?
It's very similar to what you've seen before. So if
Okay.
you have any questions, be happy to help.
Commissioners?
Court lowers the maximum density of temporary lodging units when the alternative standards aren't met from 60 to 40. All I see is lower and decrease in my response from Linda Fisher.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-29.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn?
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini?
Yes?
Mayor Rostack?
Yes,
The motion carried 4-0.
thank you. Next, ordinance 2023-30, C4 Marine Commercial Zoning District to be consistent with the county-wide plan.
Mayor, Commissioners, this is ordinance 2023-30, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending Division 8, C4 Marine Commercial of Article 5 Districts of Chapter 110 zoning of the city's Land Development Code to amend the purpose and intent of the C4 district, delete restaurants, tourist dwelling units, and retail as permitted uses, add retail, commercial, temporary lodging units, commercial/business service use, and residential and vacation rental unit as permitted uses. Delete entertainment facilities and financial services, and add commercial, business service, and institutional as religious use as special exception uses. Delete tourist dwelling and add temporary lodging and vacation rental units to building site requirements and maximum density in Section 110-350. Add reference to alternative temporary lodging use standards in CG and ROR future land use categories. Delete tourist dwelling units and add temporary lodging units in building setback requirements. Amend maximum lot coverage provisions to delete reference to temporary lodging uses. Amend buffering requirements for temporary lodging. Add special requirements for vacation rentals and temporary lodging units, providing for conflict, severability, and codification, and providing for an effective date. That was a reading of ordinance 2023-30 by title only.
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment on this? All right, thank you. Jen, do you have anything else for us on this?
No, it looks very similar.
Can
to
you
what
show,
you've
can you
seen.
show us what that looks like? Like, is this still that?
Of course.
Just, I'm sorry, just humor me. I just want to look at it again for this one.
For a specific section that you wanted to look at, or you just want to kind of go
The-
through it?
The map that shows where we're talking about and how
Oh,
it
the
would
map, okay, yes. So this is C4. It's a little hard to see on the TV, just the colors, but it's that maroon color. So you have the marina over here. This is Fish Busters, and then Madeira Bay, or part of Madeira Bay. So not that many areas, but they're, that's where
One point that Ms. Fisher says is adds ROR as an underlying future land use category. What is that?
Yes, so, okay, let's see, I think that this map with all three would probably do the best. So you can see, so in our zoning, it calls out, okay, well, you can have these standards based on your future land use. Your future land use, that's where you have it in the comprehensive plan. So up and down Gulf Boulevard, you see it's red and purple. That's commercial general's the red. The purple is ROR, residential office retail. So you can see on the right, the zoning map, the C4 right here, it has commercial general and residential office retail. So two different land uses are under the C4. Currently in our code, it does not reference the ROR. It should reference ROR because there are C4 properties that have the land use of ROR.
So it's a mixed use kind of designation?
Yes, yes. It's not changing any land use. It should have been
Okay.
in the zoning. It should have referenced that in the zoning. It didn't. So we're cleaning that up and
Thanks.
making sure
I
that it
just
has that.
wanted to understand that better. Thank
Of
you.
course.
Commissioners, any other comments?
Mayor, did you open that up to the public?
I already did, yes. Mhm. Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to pass ordinance 2023-30.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn?
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini?
Yes.
Mayor Rostack?
Yes.
Motion carried 4-0.
Okay. Next item up is letter K that I've added with conferring with the city attorney and the city manager. This involves a code enforcement issue and potential litigation.
Yes, Mayor, this is a follow-up to the workshop discussion for the property located at 15350 Gulf Boulevard. This property has been in a state of disrepair since November of 2018, so we're going on 5 years. Issues with the property include broken glass windows, a caved-in garage ceiling, exterior beams have not been properly maintained. The property has been in this state of disrepair, like I said, for 5 years. It went to the code enforcement special magistrate back in 2019. The special magistrate found a violation of a couple of different code sections dealing with maintenance of exterior premises and general maintenance of the property. He ordered a fine of $250 a day for every day that the property remained in noncompliance. As of today, the property has not come into compliance. I've heard from one of the neighbors who is complaining about, the problem with the fact that this property is in a 4-unit condo situation, and so the other properties or the other condos that are associated with this particular building may be affected with regard to this failure to maintain. At the workshop meeting, I had specifically requested authority to move forward and file a complaint for injunctive relief after I advised you that I had made numerous attempts by email, and I provided you with that email history with the property owner to bring the property into compliance. She made a lot of promises, but there was no action whatsoever. So I'm asking for your authority tonight to move forward, prepare and file a complaint for injunctive relief. And in that complaint for injunctive relief, we would ask the court to order the property owner to bring the property into compliance. Before that complaint is actually filed, I will reach back out to the property owner, advise her, if you give me the authority tonight, of the action that has been taken, and ask her one more time to bring the property into compliance before actually filing the lawsuit. But that's what I'm asking for tonight, is your authority to file that complaint if it's not brought into compliance by the property
All
owner.
right, thank you. Is there any public comment on this? All right, thank you. Commissioners? We've spoke about this before.
I follow your attorney's recommendation.
Okay. Okay, do we have a motion?
So it'd be just a motion to approve the
Okay.
city attorney's request.
Okay.
I move that we approve the attorney's recommendation.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Thank you kindly. City Clerk, we call the roll, please.
Commissioner Taglerini?
Yes?
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan?
Yes.
Mayor Rostack?
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Unfinished business, I don't see anything there unless anybody has anything to add. And then item 11 is contracts and agreements, approved city attorney agreements.
Mayor and Commission, at the September 13th regular commission meeting, the commission agreed to, selected Mr. Trask and his firm to serve as the city's attorney. The item before you tonight is to approve the enclosed agreement for Mr. Trask and his firm to serve as the city attorney for the city of Madeira Beach. In the agreement, the scope of services, the work that will be provided, which is very similar to the work that has been provided, are listed in the agreement, as well as the costs going forward in the proposed three-year agreement. Staff reviewed and had no other concerns, questions, or recommendations on the contract. It meets our charter and the services that we are looking to receive from Mr. Trask and the firm of Trask Daniel LLP.
All right, thank you.
Happy to answer any questions.
Citizen comment? Anybody has any comments on this? Okay, commissioners? You have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the contract with Trask Daniel and LLP.
I second.
City Clerk, we call the roll, please.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini?
Yes?
Commissioner McGeehan?
Yes.
Mayor Rostack?
Yes.
The motion carried 4-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is approve annual PCSO Law Enforcement Services Agreement.
Again, Mayor and Commission, as we discussed this item at the September 27th workshop, this is our annual agreement with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office for law enforcement services within our city limits. I think even Captain Liner spoke, and essentially the agreement provides all of their general patrol, all of our community policing, and any additional code enforcement, school crossing guards, all law enforcement services that we may have, and the sheriff would determine to deploy should they be needed. Hopefully we don't have to use some of them, but they are available for us, including, in addition to ground or patrol support, they do have an air helicopter, plane. So they are a full-service law enforcement agency. In my time here, they have provided exceptional services, including during storms. We are working on the reentry going forward processes, but they have, performed very, very well in the time that I've been here, as I stated. So this is the annual agreement. There is a 7%, almost 8% increase, over the cost that is being passed on to us, mainly due to just costs, inflation, but equipment and labor costs associated with the sheriff's operations. And this is included in our fiscal '24 budget. And I just wanted to reiterate, for patrol, there are 2 deputies always on patrol here in Madeira Beach. There's a day and a night shift. They're 12-hour shifts. A corporal is assigned and a sergeant. So we have coverage every minute of every day during the year.
All right, is there any public comment on this first? That's okay. Please come up. We'd love to hear from you, sir.
Again, my name is Ron Loggett, 13231 Gulf Lane. I think the Sheriff's Department is doing an excellent job, except that I wish they'd pay a little bit more attention to the crossings with the lights. Last night, I walked from the west side of Gulf Boulevard to the east side, went to the crosswalk. Sure enough, we had some idiot go by, run the light. No one was around. On the way back, the same thing happened. And I've heard other people complain about it. I know they can't be everywhere at one time, but there's probably certain sections that they're violating this. And I'd like to see them catch these people and find them. Thank you.
You're very welcome. We'll have the city manager make contact and maybe put some special emphasis on the areas.
We actually did a few weeks ago. I was the subject while I was crossing on my way to work. And I stopped, but the vehicle did not, halfway crossing at 144th. Fortunately, one of our deputies was actually behind the vehicle, so pulled him over, gave him a violation from what I was told, so. We're constantly reminding them, because as much as I walk, I do see that. That appears to be one of the more just dangerous occurrences within the city, and just people need to slow down. You're on an island at the beach. Enjoy the drive, even if it's dark out. We'll re-emphasize that.
Absolutely. Commissioners, do we have any comments on this? Do we have a motion to accept this?
I move that we approve the law enforcement services agreement.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Taglerini?
Yes?
Commissioner McGeehan?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Mayor Rostack?
Yes.
The motion carries 4-0.
All right, thank you. Next up, item 12, new business, appointment to Planning Commission.
Yes, we have one seat still to fill. The term expired on September the 30th, and we received one application from Elizabeth Watkins Halloway before the deadline. Then this week we received an application from Mike Noble he's applying again for his position. So I have a copy of that. I'll give everybody, and you can choose to accept it.
Do you have any public comment on this? Well, please come up. We'd love to hear from you.
I don't know if it's so much public, but I'm Elizabeth Holloway.
Applicant.
Hi, it's nice to meet you. I moved probably about a year ago to Madeira Beach. We bought a place on North Bayshore Drive, my husband and I, and I'm in-house counsel for a public home builder. And I've been practicing law for about 20 years, doing commercial and residential real estate. And I handle mostly permitting questions with local municipalities across 12 states. And would like to make sure that Madeira Beach keeps its unique quality that I fell in love with when we moved here. So
All right.
it's nice to meet all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners? Oh,
Mike Noble.
come on up, sir. Sorry.
Mike Noble, 158 131st Avenue East. Just reapplying for the commission. I've been on there 15 years and would like to continue my service. Lived a resident of Madeira Beach 23 years and I understood everything you guys were just talking about. So I would like to continue if you would consider me. Thank you.
Thank you kindly.
I have a ballot with both names. If you accept that one.
Am I to understand that there's just one position open?
Yes. So I have a ballot with both names if you accept the application past the deadline.
So just to clarify, Clara, when did we receive the second application?
It was this week. It's, I think it was Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, the 7th.
Okay, okay, just to clarify, thank you.
On these ballots, we need to make sure that your name is on them, okay? Because these ballots would be attached to the minutes afterwards. Can't have a secret ballot.
That's correct. Okay, I'm going to read each vote. Commissioner Brooks chose Michael Noble. Commissioner Taglerini chose Ms. Holloway. Mayor Rostak chose Michael Noble. And Commissioner McGeehan chose Michael Noble. So it's 3-1 on those. There's 3 for Mike Noble and 2 for Elizabeth Holloway. 1 for Ms. Holloway. My apologies, sorry.
Thank you. Okay, next up is staff reports. Do we have anything there?
No.
Okay. And then next up from there is agenda setting for the October 25th workshop. Looks like we have Johns Pass Activity Center alternative compromise for Pinellas, special events parking at the library, smoking vape and ban on sands and parks, city economy, city lobbyist, IAFF salary discussion, and discussion about changing the candidate qualifying period March 2025 from the first 2 weeks to the first 1 week in December, excluding weekends. 2 things that I would like to have updates on is, and this goes back at least 2 months, where are we with the 2.5-foot setback and the paver issues? That seems to dropped into the hole, and we haven't had any updates there of what we're going to do or not do. And then the shade structures that I think we need some updates on. Because right now, the problem with the pavers is they have to be 2.5 foot off of the property line. And on some of these very small lots, it doesn't work. So I'd just like to add those to the agenda for our workshop so we can get some updates. Anything else y'all like to add? Is there any citizen comment on this? Okay. All right, so now we're down to reports and correspondence for the Board of Commissioners. We have anything? City Attorney?
I just want to thank you again for the opportunity to represent the city. I appreciate you allowing me to fill that position, and I appreciate you authorizing the signing of the contract tonight. Look forward to working for you for the next 3 years.
You're very welcome. City Manager.
Nope, just thank you again for approving my colleague's contract. So thank you very much to Mayor and the Commission for that.
City
Thank-
Clerk, you have anything for us?
Yes, reminder, we have the candidate qualifying period coming up the first 2 full weeks in December, excluding the weekends. And we have Commissioner District 1 and Commissioner District 2 up. And the election will be Tuesday, March the 19th, 2024.
All right, well, thank you so much.
I'm working on the packets. They will be available online and in person,
All right.
or
well,
by
thank-
email, whatever you want.
All right, well, thank you. Full service, we like that.
Mayor, I just want to make you aware, I was contacted by the woman in charge of SWAT, Students Working Against Tobacco, and they're going to give us, we've arranged to have a presentation at 3 PM on October 18th, if you're available, if you're interested. It'll be somewhere here at City Hall.
Here at the Chambers.
It'll be in the chambers. 3 o'clock on the 18th.
Of October,
Yes.
PM,
Next week.
8.
Said that was 30 minutes usually, right? 30 minutes.
I don't remember there being a time on it, but I just felt like they were responding to our upcoming discussion regarding smoking.
Okay,
So I thought it would be interesting to hear what they had to say.
absolutely. All right. Anybody have anything else? Time is 7:52 PM. We're going to adjourn.